Welcome to another episode of Candid Conversations, hosted by yours truly, Tech Coach Ralph, where we're engineered to win. In today's conversation, I want to talk to you about startups and figuring out what exactly is a startup, right? I think I think the word startup is used so loosely, just like the term software engineer, QA engineer, anything in tech. So let's talk about it real quick, right? So if if you go to a boot camp, right? You go to a boot camp for, let's go at QA, right? To do QA, like to do automation and stuff, right? Typically, that title would be QA engineer. After you're done with the boot camp, do you sign your signature as QA engineer, or do you actually need to work and get practical experience in the role before you are considered a QA engineer, right? So bringing it back to startups, the word, like the term startup is so broad, right? Because if you just build an application and you post it on the like and you publish it, for people to use it and stuff like that, is that a startup? Like if you're the sole developer, the sole everything, right? You're the CEO, the CTO, the CFO, the founder, the developer, the QA, the UI UX person, right? Does that constitute a startup, right? Because you can have because there are startups that people work for where they might be about 50 people. It could be 100 people, right? And it's like, and I'm focusing more on software startups, right? And this might be the reason why so many startups go under because the responsibility that they're taking on, right? And the thing is with startups, they always want to go fast. I want to go fast. I want to go fast. It's like Ricky Bobby, right? And Talladega Nights. They want to go fast. But while Ricky Bobby was going so fast, what happened to him? The car flipped over and he was running down the racetrack in his underwear being burned by a fake fire. And his best friend, right, Cal, ran down the track after him to put out the fake fire, right? And and the reason that I relate the two together is because we want to go so fast. Like we're so eager to get it out there and to start making money and all that, start getting customers and stuff like that. Is within 6 months to a year without having a clean architecture, a clean code base, like having tests in place to protect your investment, your time, right? And now, um, Robert C. Martin talks about this all the time. Now you are stuck in code rot and everything like that. And but the thing is, we call it startup because that's the new trendy term. And we don't have the proper procedures in place. We like, and it's not even about hiring people, right? It's not about hiring people to do a certain task. It's about doing things the right way, even if you're doing everything yourself, right? Even if you're doing everything yourself, but um, there you still need to make sure that your application is clean, it's testable, right? That it is tested, because so many times people like they'll like, oh, I actually want to make this change. They make the change, and another part of the site or another part of the application totally breaks down, right? And and users are not able to use it and stuff like that, and nobody ever knows, right? Until someone stumbles across it, or maybe a frustrated user who actually wants to use the application makes a report, and you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't know. Why? Because we didn't have a clean structure in place. We didn't have any unit tests. We didn't have any functional tests. We didn't have any business logic tests. We didn't have it's unfortunate, to be honest with you, right? And I think that, like, I don't think it's about the size of the quote unquote startup. I think it's the mindset and the procedures, right? Because a lot of times we approach these what we call startups as these little side projects that we're doing, right? Instead of giving them the structure that we need. If you are like, if you're a software developer, Q engineer, whatever the case may be, right? And you actually work for a company, and the company has these procedures in place of like, using Jira, for instance, and having like the sprint cadence, or maybe they're using Kanban or whatever the case may be, right? But in your the thing that you're building, you don't implement those procedures that you learn from like work, then I don't think you really have a startup, right? Because the way that I am, every single thing that I do, it's a learning experience, a learning opportunity. When I coach my patron members, like my tech barbarians, right? My tech prodigy members, it is based on what I've learned for the past 20 years, right? The different Scrum settings that I've been in, the different managers that I've had, the different Scrum masters, the different product owners that I've had. I have learned so much from each of those situations, from each of those people, from learning from the front end developers, from the back end developers, that I'm able to pour all of that information into the people that I'm training, that I'm coaching, right? And being that I know how it works, and I know how, like, I know the things that are good when you're trying to release and deploy effective software, and the things that are not so good, so I know what to avoid and what to add into the process. But we should, like, if you work in the industry, right, then you should be employing those for your own project, no matter the size, right? For you say, oh, because I wanted to get it up, so I didn't write any unit tests, right? That's a major fail in my book. Like I can't even consider, like, because if as soon as you make a change, your product breaks, then there goes your startup. So I can't even consider it. I'm like, why even consider it a startup if you don't care about quality, right? The only thing that the customers care about is functional software that is easy to use, and that's based on the quality. But if you don't care about the quality, then I can't consider it a startup, right? I can barely consider it an application for me to consider it a startup, right? Like, what is your focus? Like, I don't, I just don't understand the idea, the focus of people who don't, like, to me, when you don't value the quality of your software, then you don't value your customers, right? You just want to build something to get something out there, hoping that it kicks off, but then guess what? Like, let's say you build an application, right? And it blows up, right? But you don't have clean architecture, you don't have your layers separated, you don't have unit tests in place. The only thing that you do have, right, is the person who's building the application. They go and they click two or three things to just to make sure that it shows up, right? And now, so now, like, so, but it looks a super cool app, it's booming, it takes off and everything like that, right? And now you have a bunch of users. Let's say you have 10,000 users, right? It's not that many, right? But it's still a good amount, right? You have 10,000 users, and now, like, oh, you want to implement a new feature, like you had the MVP out, and now it's like time to add a new feature, right? And you go make the change, and you release it, and now, like, the app comes up, you're able to log in, or however it is that it works. But something that, like, the main reason that drew a bunch of people to it, you broke it because you didn't have any testing in place, no unit tests, no quality tests, right? And like, it doesn't have to be an actual QA tester or QA engineer to do it, but you need to know the concepts and like the idea of testing in order to make sure that, like, like, to me, from what I've seen, developers make the worst QA people, right? Because the only thing they're thinking about is the happy path, getting it to work, like, oh, because their code always works, so they don't have to think about anything else. But QA is like, okay, what are all the ways that this shouldn't work, this can't work, and that the unknowns, right? The risks, and not having that mindset as part of your quote unquote startup, it's hard to see the pathway of success, right? So consider this a public service announcement for anyone who has a startup, and they want to expand their application. They really want to grow, right? How does your art, like, so ask yourself these questions: how does your architecture look, right? How does your code look? How does your testing look? If you were to make a change today, right, and release it, could you guarantee that nothing else in the application is going to break, that everything is going to work exactly as it did? If you can answer yes to that, then I commend you, and I think that then your startup has a pretty good chance. But if you are in doubt about any of those questions, you need to slow down, right? Look at your code, do some more learning to clean it up, because I would hate to see that you build up a lot of momentum, a lot of anticipation, a lot of hype, and as soon as you make it public and everyone has access to it, there's tons and tons of errors that you just don't know how to fix. You don't know where it lies in the code, and it becomes a total mess. All right. So take this for what it's worth. Like I said, I've been in the tech industry for 20 years, been in the QA field for 15 years, been doing being a QA engineer for the past 12, working on automation and stuff like that. So take it for what it's worth. So just trying to look out for you and your startup so you can be as successful as possible, because at the end of the day, I want you to win. So, all right. So this has been another episode of Candid Conversations. Let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What do you think about startups? Am I off on my take? Leave me a comment. I would love to have the conversation with you. And yeah, so that's about it. If you haven't done so yet, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you can know every time that we go live. Like the video, share the video, all of that good stuff. And if you are looking to level up your technical skills, check me out at www.techcoachralph.dev, where you can get some exclusive content as well as sign up for one-on-one coaching. And if you do have a startup and you would like some a consultation, some insight on it, please hit me up as well, and we can have that discussion. All right. But until next time, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Candid Conversations. This is Tech Coach Ralph signing off.
If you enjoyed the fascinating information shared in this video and you want more, be sure to hit the subscribe button to Tech Coach Ralph to be notified for new videos.